data extension and list serves a similar purpose. They are a holding place. They are a structure to capture or hold your subscriber data. So basically, the way whatever we were doing as a part of data extension, similarly, same thing can be done as a part of list. But there are certain columns that you have to add. So some of the columns you have to add as a part of list, whereas data extensions was totally individual or separate in nature, wherein you can add as many columns, whichever columns you want. First name, last name, you want to add product ID, you want to add product name, you can do that as well. But in this case, you have to have minimum these details added into a list in order to create a list. So what is the difference between list and a data extension? That is an important question, and a lot many times it is actually asked and conversed about. So basically, what is a list? List is an older form of storing the subscriber data. So right now, these days, the prevalent best practice is to use data extension until and unless you have some conditions which I'll talk about in detail, which provides you a ground to actually use list as a use case rather than data extension. But going forward, as a practice, people are using only data extensions to work on. Nobody these days is trying to use list as a data model. Everybody is moving towards data extension. So this is the future. If you are recommending, if you are speaking to a client or any particular person of in this discussion of list and data extension, try and tend towards data extension until and unless you have certain conditions, which I'll show in the next slide. Bottom line, data extension is the way forward to store the data, not the list. These are the different parameters or variables based on which you can say that which data model to be chosen by the client, or what data model you should recommend when you are speaking to a customer. So you can use data extensions if it is more than 500,000 subscribers. If you want talk about second line item is about speed, data extensions are faster. If you want to use store or REST APIs, list can store data. You can store any kind of flexible data model. So basically, remember we were talking about instance wherein the customer table is there and the product table is there. So customer buys a product. So that kind of data model can be created within data extensions. But with list, you become a bit rigid. You cannot do much with that list. As I said, if you are aware, this product's name was Exact Target. Just to go back in history, this product name was Exact Target. Around 2012 or 13, Salesforce bought it. That's when they named it Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So it was Exact Target, the product name. Back then, the system has been going overhaul slowly and slowly and slowly. We are viewing different things, additions. For example, yesterday I showed email studio. A lot of functionalities were there in audience builder as well. So audience builder is the future of all those things. That is what is happening. Salesforce is actually adding the new different dimensions of modules or functionalities onto marketing cloud. So list was used earlier, but these days data extension is in prevalence. One of the last important thing in the last line item is, so if you remember, we spoke about all subscriber master D. That all subscriber table holds the data for all the sends that are going out of marketing cloud. So let's say if there are 100 data extensions and each has got, for example, 10,000 records, all the data 100 into 10,000 records will be a part of all subscriber or master D. In data extension, the difference is as soon as you send from that data extension, that gets populated in all subscriber if it is a data extension. Whereas if you go for list, as soon as you store a data, it gets stored in all subscriber table. So that is the one difference that you should be aware. Rest all are in terms of speed, in terms of subscriber space or records in that table. All those factors actually help you to determine what should be your recommended data model. But in general, it's the extension. So there's not much question about it, but this is a very important point I wanted to stress upon. So let's go back into the system and quickly create a list. Okay, my lists. So what I'll do over here is similar to the way we created data extension, the process remains the same. There are a few changes over here. So if you can see, there are a couple of them created. If you check this option, public list, this list can be viewed by an external customer who has landed onto your profile center. So I'll talk about, but profile center is basically a link wherein you can go and update your profile of yourself as a customer. So if you click that, this will be viewed at that level. If not, then it won't be viewed. Again, location, do you want to attach to a particular campaign? Now, next step is to add subscriber to that. Again, same structure. If you see, external key, location, type standard, public, viewed, and tracking. Same thing as data extension. So I'll click on subscriber tab, and currently, since there are no subscriber added to this particular list, I'll click on create. So I'm just adding the details. So this is the list on which it will run. I'll click on finish. So see over here, a subscriber record has been created inside that list. So the process is pretty simple, straightforward. And as I told, we need not to stress too much on list data model because it's not relevant too much these days. But this is what I wanted to show you. Important thing is subscriber key and status and email address. These three fields are supposed to be added. So unlike in data extension, you can do it the way you want it. Over here, you have to add that, and this all other secondary columns are also added as a part of that. I'll quickly browse to the right and show you. So these are all the values that are automatically created, and these three values I had added. So this was the way to create a record on a list. As I said again and again, repeating it for the sake of clarity, data extension is the way to go forward, not list. So I'm not doing too much out of it. Typical buttons on the UI, search, copy, import, export, it'll do the same operations as the name suggests. Yeah, and these are again split if you want to copy, delete, all intuitive UI things. So now that is a list that we spoke about. So I've created this one. At this level, again, certain features are there which are similar to UI features of data extension, nothing more, nothing less. So this was in brief about list. Next, we'll move on to is that GDPR thing. So basically GDPR, what is GDPR? So I'll give you a brief nutshell, and this in Trailhead, this module is very good. I'll share the link with this PPT, but then this is good enough to give you a glimpse of what data privacy is. This is for European Union, by the way. So GDPR is a set of privacy laws that was defined by European Union. And what they said was effectively that I am the owner. I, as a customer or the user, is the owner of the data. I am the owner, not the person who is storing this data. For example, Salesforce or the company for which you are working. I, as a user, is the owner of that data. So I should be able to access that data. I should be able to ask you to delete that data if I want. I should be able to actually request you to give it all the data related to me back to me in a readable format. So all those kind of things comes under the preview of data privacy and GDPR. What happened was this was passed in 2018 by European Union. Now, why you should be concerned as a US, because you have a US client and this is EU. The thing is, if, for example, you are working for a customer who sends a global email, the use case is that you send emails across the world, and the end user, your client's end user, is in one of the European Union states, and he receives that email and opens it, then that means you are under the purview of GDPR. That is why it's very important. It doesn't look very important because you are serving a US customer, and generally US customers serve only in their US region. But what if the email reaches to someone in the Europe who's based out of European Union, who's moved to European Union? Then you get into the ambit of that. So hence it is very important for you to actually make sure that the client is aware of the GDPR compliances. So Salesforce out of the box, Salesforce Marketing Cloud or any Salesforce product is compliant with GDPR. So we need not to worry about it. Salesforce out of the box is taking care of it. But there are certain things that you need to do in order to actually move ahead, in order to actually start using the product. Let's take a step back. So what you need to do. So for example, in one of my experiences, there is an agreement that needs to be signed between your client, if somebody is using Salesforce instance, any Salesforce instance, not even Marketing Cloud, and between the Salesforce. These two parties needs to sign, and the standard term is DPA, data processing addendum. It's an agreement saying that Salesforce mentions in that we are all compliant, we have done this kind of encryption, the architecture is secure enough, the data is residing within the EU region. Even if the data is going out of EU region, it is binded by a lot of security policies that they mention. So all those technical mumbo jumbo is part of that data processing agreement, and it needs to be signed by both the parties, your client and Salesforce. Salesforce has a copy ready all the time, but already signed. You just need to get it signed by your organization, the client's organization. So that is the first step, saying that you are binding with Salesforce for all the principles in GDPR. So that is one thing. Secondly, as I said, this is the first thing. And then what, and by the way, in general, as a practice, remember that anything that goes to a legal team takes time. So you should let your clients upfront know that if we are going to process this addendum or we are going to look into GDPR, make sure you have some time in hand, you have some heads up, because it will take some time for signing that agreement. These are some of the principles on which GDPR is there. You got to be storing data in a fair and transparent way, that I should be able to know what you are storing me. You shouldn't be storing extra data about me. So for example, if you just are concerned about my transaction history, you should only store that, not any other data. Minimum data should be stored, it should be accurate, and should be getting updated whenever required by me only. If I request, you should be able to delete my data, total data. It should be secure in your Salesforce instance or on your product. So these are some of the basic tenets, I would say, on a high level. And obviously you should be having some accountability. Couple of things, the way Salesforce is designed, it handles it automatically. It's secure structure, to be honest, it's secure. Second thing is data deletion. So you can actually delete a contact totally from a Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Data deletion option is there. So if there is a request, you data can be deleted. Then next thing is you're transferring it to a third party or to the customer, back to the customer in a human readable format, so that basically they get to know what kind of data you have about themselves. So this is another tenet of GDPR that Salesforce takes care about automatically. We don't need to be doing too much, but we need to be aware what GDPR is, how it can affect a person, whoever. Even if you're not serving a EU client, it can affect you. So it's very, very fluid. So you have to be very careful, not that US clients won't get affected. So just trying to look at a link, which is, so if you go to Salesforce again, upon to Trailhead, there's one more link, which is salesforce.com/GDPR/marketing. So it talks about how marketing handles all the GDPR tenants. In fact, all the Salesforce product do that. Right to be forgotten. So basically getting deleted, data portability. So you can extract the data and send it across to a different system if you want. Consent. I think you mentioned about consent. So consent should be there from the client to actually store your data. Has to be some kind of consent. So that is what I think you were looking for when you asked all the EU clients of yours whether you should send email or not. Then restriction of processing, accountability, security. See, these are all the ways Salesforce actually manages the GDPR compliance in various ways. So I'll share both these links with you. Have a go through, read through, so that you will understand. And the data addendum that I was talking about. So this is the place where accountability and transparency. So this is where you'll get that addendum, the legal mumbo jumbo about all the technicalities that Salesforce says that I'm secure, safe, we don't transfer the data, blah blah blah. All these technical details are there in this addendum. So we need to get this addendum signed by within you as a client and Salesforce. So that is the first step. And then obviously Salesforce is out of the box doing that. So we need to be careful with that. Another important thing which we'll be covering in detail, but since we are on GDPR topic, I would like to touch bases. I'm assuming everybody is sending emails with help of Email Studio in your organization, correct? In an email, what all are important factors which are related to GDPR or compliances in an email body? What are the factors? So for example, a physical address of the company that has to be there in that email. Okay, physical address, unsubscribe, profile center. All these links has to be a part of all the email going out of Salesforce Marketing Cloud. That ways you are covered. So Salesforce gives you some, not automation, but then a place where you can actually apply those rules, headers and footers standard, and with all those links, unsubscribe and all those things. So you have to append it at on every emails. Make sure that. And to be honest, these days Google also, Gmail also checks that. If you don't have a physical address and all these legal things around an email, Google also scans that. So this is the kind of awareness that ISPs are having around the world. So all these kind of details should be a part of that email. Let me see if I have an email which doesn't divulge anything about me but can show you something. But I'm presuming you are getting what I'm trying to say. All those links in the footer, then there's a certain header that needs to be taken care of. So all those details should be properly done. So this is again a Grammarly email that I wanted to show you. So if you see on the top, unsubscribe option on top, Google says that this is unsubscribe, not the one that I was thinking about, but yeah. Let me go to the bottom and show the things that I was talking about. So see, there's an address, physical address of the company. See, email preferences, unsubscribe. All these should be a standard part of your any emails going out of Marketing Cloud. So you'll find this if you now from now on, if you see any emails, it should be a standard part of any footer of an email. This is one just example. So that is what I was talking about in terms of GDPR and its compliances. So we'll move forward now. Business units. So basically the idea of business units is to mimic the hierarchy in a real world organization. So for example, in this case, if you see an example, I've just added an example of Pepsi over here. So this is an example. So what happens is you create this level of structuring in marketing cloud with the help of BUs. So Pepsi headquarters would be a parent BU, for example, and all these other three ones would be the sub BUs. So this kind of structure is mimicked with BUs and sub BUs, so that why do we do that? The reason behind doing it is, for example, Pepsi Texas or Pepsi Florida or Pepsi California. These three are all different organizations within Pepsi ecosystem. They function differently. So now if they function differently, their business units or their, let's say, Salesforce org are totally different. So effectiveness means I have three instances of Salesforce Marketing Cloud. One for Pepsi Texas, one for Florida, one for California. So we mimic that. What it helps is, for example, since I said all these three units or business units or organization structures within Pepsi behave independently, they have their own material, they send, they do create their own campaigns, they target customers, they get the data relevant to, for example, local Texas data, Florida data. So basically all the functions that they are doing in Salesforce Marketing Cloud is individual to them. Hence we are creating a structure in the system so that they behave separately, although at the same time, since they belong to Pepsi at the end of the day, so the parent BU or the parent business unit has to have some kind of similarity. So for example, all the emails that are going from Salesforce Marketing Cloud by either three of them. So remember, Pepsi headquarters doesn't do any work. It's just a holding structure. All the emails that are going across from Pepsi Texas, Florida, or California has to have standard template. For example, a standard Pepsi logo. All those kind of data, which is content, which is standard and is at an abstract level, as done at a Pepsi headquarter level. So you create content at Pepsi headquarter level so that similarity or is consistent, and then you share it across to all the three sub business units. So that's how real life example works in Marketing Cloud. One example, data cannot be shared. Other example could be in India, for example, you have Hindustan Lever. So one is South zone, other is your North, East, West. Four zones are there. So under HUL India, for example, there would be four sub BUs. Or under North, HUL North zone, there could be Delhi region, like that. So that hierarchy, if it is existing in an organization, we are trying to build it over here. So that's the reason we create business units inside Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And how it can be done quickly. It's an admin task, but I'll just quickly show you. So right now over here, if you see, this is, so there is only one instance, one BU in this case, MID, until I don't have any access to the parent one. That is a different issue, but by the looks of it, it looks like there is only one account with MID as this one, which is mentioned. So there is no structure over here. There's only single account, but that's not a good practice. What a good practice is, you have to have a holding BU, headquarters, or an admin BU, whatever you might like to call. And then there has to be sub BUs mimicking the different regions, or I don't know, different type of organizations. That's how it should happen in a real life example when you're working with the client. So do recommend that always have a structure or BU structure in place. Don't just simply create one account. Now there is another important reason why I'm saying that. Another one is, since I told yesterday that Salesforce Marketing Cloud is deployed state model. So it's unlike other Salesforce orgs or products, you need not to wait. So from day one, it's deployed, it's live. How do you do testing? How do you actually do debugging? How do you do that? All those activities, like in earlier cases of Salesforce or any other product. So for example, you are in various sandboxes, and finally after testing in sandboxes, you graduate to the final production one, the real one. But in this case, since everything is live from day one, what do you do? So you have to be first of all very careful, and then business units come into picture. You can create multiple business units, and one of the business units could be sandbox, one of the sandbox in which you can do all kind of testing. And one of them could be, for example, a UAT. So if you deploy some product, not deploy, but then if you give it to the client for doing a UAT, user acceptance testing, you can use that particular business unit, or for that sake, a training business unit. So these could be one of the couple of use cases that can be cited when you recommend any client of yours to actually go for a business unit structure rather than a simple business unit. Now we are going to talk about publication list. What is a publication list? Yes, technically it's a list, and then you add subscriber to it. How do you add subscriber to it? So if you use a data extension and it is attached to a data extension. So basically, as Monish mentioned, it's about a category. Let's take an example about a category newsletter. Let's take an example of product updates. I mean, and any newsworthy article. All these three categories are there: newsletter. Your second one is product updates. Third one is your politics, for example. So all these three different categories are there. So now that means three different publication lists effectively in the system. It means now you have 10 different data extensions which are existing in the system. Now you then out of those 10 data extensions, let's say first five have data about product updates. So those are the five data extensions. Let's say each one has five subscriber. Category is your product updates. It has got five data extensions in which each five subscribers are there. That means 25 subscribers in total. And you attach this publication list to these five data extensions. Okay, I'm just taking an example of numbers, but then you can see as well. And as soon as you attach this publication list to these five data extensions, what happens is when you send the email out for those five data extensions, from those five data extensions, all the data 25 subscriber from those five data extensions get automatically added to your publication list, to which you attach it. Now what is the real use now? So that's how it happens. Now what is the real use is, if you want to unsubscribe, what you can do is, and this publication list is detachable. You can use this publication list with one data extension, another data extension, a group of data extensions. This can be reused. If I, as a subscriber, in one of those 25 emails that I got, one of those 25 emails, I unsubscribe. So the opt out will get stored in that publication list. And once it gets stored in that publication list, it can be taken care if I use it with another data extension. So that by mistake, if I'm in the second data extension I'm using, and if the email address is there to which email needs to go out, that can be taken care by the publication list. You need not to worry in data extension every time. So that is the reason we are using publication list to actually append it to the data extensions, categories of data extensions that you are talking about. So in this case, it was product updates. It could be newsletter. So publication list naming newsletter, and then there are two data extensions to that. So that's the basic use of it. And internally, remember that this is internally related to a systems table called all subscriber master DE. These are internally related. We don't do that designing out in the marketing cloud. It's already integrated within the system. So basically it talks, if opt-in is there, all subscriber also gets notified, and that's how the system doesn't allow the mail to be sent to me again if I have opted out. Now let's go and create a publication list in the system. Where do we do that? Again, everything is inside email studio only. Publication list. This is again a publication list. I think I might have created, I'm not sure, but let's create another one. Save. So this is a publication list that is created. There is no subscriber inside this. If you can see at what stage the subscriber will get created, I told you at what stage subscriber will get inserted into that. So once you are about to send an email or send via on top of a data extension, at that time it will get automatically inserted with a particular status. And these are typical UI related buttons over here which you can actually have a look. Now let me see if I have any email template existing. You should be coming to this link every now and then. I mean, if you do any Google search, to be honest, on Marketing Cloud, this is the first thing that will come, because there's not much information contributed by the people out there. So this is the first place by default you'll land. Help.salesforce.com. Marketing Cloud is the place to get all the information in terms of implementing anything. Let me see if I have any content that I can use. So what I'm trying to do is, now I'm trying to send an email from a data extension that I created yesterday, and to show you that how it works in one of the data extensions and records get updated. I'll create a folder of mine over here. Is there any email that I can simply use? These are all PNG files, content blocks. Let me see in my data extension, what is the status? So I'm presuming all of you would be actually viewing your magic over here, code view and all those things, correct? All of you would be working, most of you at least would be working on this part of the screens.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can directly. Oh, while testing, it's not actually save send from name, additional option. It's not giving me an option right now for test send, review and test to add. So until I actually send an email, then only it'll give you that option. So I was under the impression, my bad, that if I do preview and test, I might get an option to show that publication list and choose that. Since it is not coming over here, I'll take this opportunity, give you your first assignment. Going ahead, this will keep on building. So now what will happen is right now, so for example, we'll start with data extension creation. Yesterday we started with that. Now today, for example, we moved on to publication list, separation list, all those things. So can I request you, every one of you, to actually do that each step in your local org? I'm not sure how. Do you have, each of you have your own org, or is a single client org that you're working in the house it? So the reason behind asking is I want to provide now some handouts or some homework kind of thing, so that you are also engaged and I also get to know. Because with marketing cloud, my experience has been, to be honest, unless you do something in marketing cloud, you can't be sure whatever information is given it's correct or not. So marketing cloud has actually a lot of, it has a habit of actually throwing surprises at you. So that has happened with me a lot. Unless you do something in marketing cloud, you cannot be sure it will work this way.
What we have done is we have provided individual accounts to them, but it is under single business unit, which is email monks, right? They would be able to log into their actual account site, and they would be able to manage, but they would be able to see everything, because we have given them permission to make sure that they can access both email studio, automation studio, right? Because it would
Okay.
be required for them to manage SQL queries, mscript, and journeys. They have their individual accounts, so you can provide them assignments to create publication list, right? So that won't be an issue.
In your local org, please start creating data extensions, because this will be a building block of whatever assignments or exercises that we'll be doing. And create a profile publication list the way I've shown it to you, and then take any template that you have in your email and attach that publication list from this stage. When you are attaching that all publication and all list, separation list, and then see what happens once you send that email. Only use one email and send that email out to yourself, for example, and see what happens as a part of publication list. Now, if you wanted to talk about suppression list, suppression list is basically react proactive measures. Let's say if your publication list is reactive, basically somebody is updating and then you are updating in your system. Somebody is unsubscribing and then you are updating in your system. So that is kind of reactive. Suppression list is proactive. You are actually adding already known spam emails, already known emails which are low, which don't open, or for example your competitors, your those emails into that suppression list, so that system won't send the emails to them at all. So system won't allow the emails to go out. So this is kind of a reactive way of pursuing the things. So this is sometimes also called do not call list, wherein if you add those email IDs over there in that suppression list, system won't send the emails out to them at all. And I told you the use case would be all that you might be having some spam emails added to that suppression list, or some potential clients or competitors, not clients, competitors, that you don't want, you want to make sure that you don't want to reach out to them, add those emails to them, so that in that ways you are covered. So that is the part of suppression list. So let's go and see suppression list. Same process. Technically it's the same thing. Whatever we did in publication list, technically everything remains the same. The uses is different. So again, this is a placeholder suppression list, and subscriber count as usual is 0. Now you can add. I'm presuming I'm not going through this import wizard, which would be similar to data extension. So that's how you can import all the emails, for example, emails from spam that you are already identified, emails, let's say they have opted it out already in your org, you have that data, all those data should be inserted over here. So that's the simple way of doing it. So I'm not adding the records over here, because it's a simple process of doing import all those subscriber records in this suppression list. Suppression list is do not call. Publication list is send that, but then once somebody unsubscribes, you get the data information in that, and whenever you use that publication list, it makes sure that the emails are not accidentally sent out from that data extension if you use that publication list. So that's the basic difference. Then there was some other things as well which are not enabled in this org. So I was aware that there are certain things called synchronous data extensions as well. Right now it's not enabled, probably because of the reason there's a concept called Salesforce Connect. What happens is, this is Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and since if you have any idea of working in Salesforce world, Salesforce provides out of the box solutions to integrate their own products. Simple, very simple. They make it very simple to integrate it within their own products. You will naturally think it's the case. So Salesforce Marketing Cloud and Sales Cloud, if you want to integrate, there's an out of the box adapter called Marketing Cloud Connect that is required. So you download it, do certain configurations that are again provided as a part of Trailhead if anybody is interested, and that's how you connect Salesforce Marketing Cloud with Sales Cloud. Because at the end of the day, Sales Cloud is your CRM. It has got the data for your all the customers, prospective customers, lead. And obviously, and as I told you, as a best practice, you're not supposed to store data in Marketing Cloud. So where do you get data from to run these journeys? Absolutely, either you get it integrated from external system via APIs or FTPs or from Sales Cloud. So Sales Cloud becomes more natural way because it's easier to integrate. So Salesforce Connect is an adapter to connect these two different instances, Sales Cloud with Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So now what happens is I was just, since it is not there, I'll just give you a brief glimpse what exactly it is. At this synchronous data extension, there's something called synchronous data extension, which is not a part because it's not connected. What it does is, so if you want to create a lead, so for lead contacts, account objects are there in Sales Cloud. So then I think I should skip synchronized data extensions. This is another type of data extension which creates a replica of Sales Cloud's objects over here. And then you can pull in data, basically fetch data from there. So it's out of the box way of creating tables which are similar to Sales Cloud. That is called synchronized data extension. Profile Center. Now, what is the difference and how it works? So basically, what Profile Center gives you an option as a customer, as a subscriber. If you click onto that footer link, manage subscription, if you click over there, it will allow you to update the data. Remember in GDPR spoke about a tenant or a pillar which talks about updating the data or making sure the data is relevant or present if I want to extract it. All those, you spoke about all those points. This is also stemming from that. Every email has that, and it should give you as a subscriber and right to actually update your own data into Salesforce Marketing Cloud directly. What essentially, if you see in Profile Center, what you are doing is you have created these two fields, and these two fields are available over here. So essentially what we are saying is email address, and this is, ignore the nomenclature, but let's say email address, this can be updated by the end customer. So that is the usage of Profile Center. This is email address. You can have many details if you want. So for example, first name, last name, blah, blah, blah. All the detail about a customer that you can actually get updated with the help of customer so that his data stays relevant. And to be honest, this works well for you as well because your data is getting updated automatically. Because one of the biggest problem with marketers these days is to make sure that their data is relevant, updated with all the preferences and all their personal data. So it's a headache for them. It's very difficult for them to manage it and make it relevant. So it works for them as well if you show and give the access to the customer for himself or herself to actually update their data. So it's easier for you. This is the reason for using this page, Profile Center. Coming on to Subscription Center. Subscription Center helps the subscriber to actually unsubscribe or subscribe from the list or the data extension that you have exposed, or you can do it globally as well. So for example, unsubscribe from all available publications. Now if you remember, in one of the lists that I had created, remember all those options, newsletter publication list is there, all these options. What the reason it's reflecting over here was I had made it public. There's an option while creating that to make it public. That's the reason it's reflecting over here. So these are all the lists that are already existing in the system, and you are giving an option to the user that enroll into one of these or opt out in one of those. So that is the option that is provided by this Subscription Center, which is an out of the box page to help the customer to unsubscribe from a particular list, subscribe back if they want, and on the top of it, if you want to unsubscribe totally from your all the communications from Marketing Cloud, you can use that as well. So that's the primary reason for Subscription Center over here. Let me quickly go and create another field over here to just show you how it works. And these two options, if you get connected to Salesforce, these two options become relevant. So right now it's not relevant in our case. Just out of curiosity, I was wondering, I mean, we in Salesforce world live in all Salesforce products. We like to actually boast about lot of Salesforce things. So last two topics that I wanted to cover is data filters and measures. Data filters. So as the name suggests, data filters, we are creating filters. I'll create one for myself as usual. I'll create data filters over here. What is the purpose of a data filter? Why do we create that? Since the name suggests it's data filter, it's basically filtering the data and creating a subset of it based on certain conditions. So if you remember, we saw yesterday filtered data extension type. The philosophy or the theory remains the same. So you are basically creating a data filter based on certain attributes. For example, gender equals female. So that filter, we're creating that filter and using it for our purposes. So one of the cases is based on a attribute, which let's say male or female. Other could be based on data extension or a list. Sorry, not extension, list. So these are the two criteria in which data filters can be created. And data filters are created. What is done after that? In which you can actually use those filters to do a lot of activities. It can be used here as well, but these are just simply data filters. An example that I will take is, for example, you want to find out, and of course there can be a lot of oring and anding. So you can use, of course, or and ands to get the data out of it. So I'll take a small use case, enterprise level use case. So for example, you want to find out the people who own, for example, a particular type of car, and which belong to a particular area of in a country, like that. You say it becomes an and. You have that car and you belong to that country. So that kind of conditioning, and it can go, of course, much more complex, to be honest. So that kind of, what you say, filtering can be added over here in data filters, and you can create those data filters and store it to be utilized later. One of the use cases that I gave in Automation Studio, you can use it for your purposes. So let's go and have a look. It's data filter only, so there's nothing complex about it, as the name suggests. So there are two ways it can be changed. It's profile attributes or data extension, as I said. So let's go to profile attributes. So this is already created one. Let me just check, this is the name, or these are all the measures. There's nothing inside stored. That's just quickly, since measure is over here, I'll tell you what exactly it is. Measures is nothing but you can get some system data outputted in a certain format, out of the box format, and you can store it under measures and it can be utilized later on. So for example, it could be total emails not clicked in last 30 days, total emails not opened. These are already system created measures. There's nothing new about it. These are system created, but you can also go and create your own measures. So basically, again, it's a kind of data that you are extracting from the system. I'll show you that, but since it was there, so I need to point it to see internal practice automation. Is there anything? Let me go back and cancel and create it first on the other one, just to show you the process, and then we can come back to attribute one. Data extension. So I need to point out to that data extension. This is my folder. I think I created one yesterday with a couple of records. Yes. So these are the fields, if you remember, yesterday we created. And again, just for simple example and not being complex, I'll use the same thing. Okay, let me choose something else for a change. So date of birth. Let's say date of birth is, let's say, before and equal to, these are all the options for date of birth, is after. For example, let's say a certain date. Let's say it's today, today plus plus, today minus minus, like these, today plus 1 day, like that. So these kind of configurations you can actually create it over here, and then again you can drag it like this, and first name is equal to, let's say, John. So this, see on the left right hand side in the corner, if you can, so this is automatically, it's ending. You can click and change its oring. So it will check date of birth is after today plus 1 day, or first name is John. So this is the configuration. This is the filter that I'm creating with the help of OR gate. If you want to change it, and I'll add one more, let's say email address. Email address, let's say, is not equal to, let's see what all options are there. Exist in the whole world, does not exist, for example. Or what else options? Ends with, contains, let's say contains John. Now what I have done, so these two parameters are or either this or this, and then whatever the result is, you can add it with this. Did you see that? So these kind of complex configurations for filters can be used with the help of and or. So this is the query that it became. Date of birth is after today plus 1 day, first name is equal to John, and email address contains John. Save it. I'll save the filter name. Description, don't forget to fill the description, please. I'll store it over here. Save. So these are all the conditions it has that I was doing it. It has been stored. Let's go to this folder, and this was the filter that I had created. So that's the concept of filter based on data extensions. Now the next thing is we want to talk about, as we just was on, also we were touched base upon measures. So on the left hand side there's something called measures. So measures is nothing but as I said, it's an extract from the system which is pretty standard in nature. So for example, these are all the system defined measures. If you see system defined measures, let's say total unsubscribe, I'll just extend it. Okay, so these are the predefined system default measures that our system has created. Let's say total marketing, total unique clicks in last 30 days. Let's go inside and have a look. Let's see the configuration that has been done. So data source subscriber table, it is using event source unique clicks. These are the standard options that are provided by the Salesforce Marketing Cloud if you want to create a measure. So for example, bounce, click, not clicked, opened, all those, in this case unique click, unique open. And how do you do that? So this is that filter. So this is again small filter for that, creating this measure. If you see, these are the options. Click date, event attributes, click dates is after today minus 30, last 30 days. For last 30 days, this is the configuration. Today date minus 30 days. That's it. So that gives you the data for this particular measure, which is unique clicks in last 30 days.